All right, here we are, day number 2 of the American Gumption Morning Show, being broadcast on Spirituality Gone Wild. And so far, it's been a wild morning. I've already made one little minor mistake. I forgot to hit the go live button, and so I was ended up talking to myself for a minute when I finally realized that I wasn't actually on the air. So we're about 2 minutes late getting started, but that's all good. And so yeah, wow, okay. Deep breath. Day number 2. Day number 1 was pretty cool yesterday. Pretty happy with the way that all worked out. Thank you for all the great comments on my Facebook personal page and on the American Gumption page. And obviously, I'm going to expand my reach into different pages as we broadcast live each day into different venues. And so I'll get to know many more of you. But certainly the largest group of you came through my personal Facebook page, and that was great. So Debbie Devine is now appearing on here. This, I'm not sure what this is all about. Maybe my producer in the background is helping me out, showing some things on there. So anyway, I am happy to be here again. One of the comments from my brother was that YouTube actually streamed better than Facebook. So there is a YouTube channel that I'm broadcasting on, and you can search that out, and we'll have to make sure we include a link in the chat group that people can log in and get it there. So hopefully you'll find the right place. And I should probably mention, I feel like I'm a little bit slow here in broadcasting. I'm hoping it's coming through loud and clear, but the tropical storm or the hurricane remnants is kind of right on top of me right now. So let's hope that I'm able to broadcast without any issues and everything goes through. So anyway, here it is, day number 2. We have a guest coming up in the second half hour. Looking forward to that. Our guest is going to be Radiance Tyler, aka Mimi Burns, and she's actually helping out behind the scenes producing right at the moment. So if there's any faux pas, we'll point fingers at each other and figure out what went wrong. So when last week I had a training with some of the other hosts who have been doing the show for a few weeks or few months, and Radiance was actually the person who trained me how to use StreamYard. And so that was the first time we got to meet each other. And she's a great person. And she has a generous heart, and she's all about helping others. And that's what spirituality is all about. We want to help people live a better life and live with more happiness and joy and love in their heart. And so I'm just getting to know this great community of people and bringing my gumption into the crowd. So yesterday was I was kind of, boy, I don't know how you guys felt, but I was a little bit low energy for a few hours in the afternoon because, you do your first show and it's exciting. And I wasn't necessarily nervous, and I knew I had a plan. I knew what I wanted to share with you all. And I more or less did that. It was a massive data dump in terms of what I did, because I just rambled for 60 minutes and tried to tell the entire, overview, quick story. And so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, it was one of those things that I did it, and I got through that first day, and now that's out of the system. Now we're going to start to settle into a groove. So we're not going to be as much all over the board. We're going to try to focus on a particular topic. Usually that'll happen in the first half hour, and then a guest in the second half hour. And we'll deviate from that. But that's kind of going to be the general plan. So today, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that I have a new theme that's going to come up in the middle of our show today. So we have the opening theme that you've already heard, American Patrol, and that's our opening music, kind of a jazzy big band swing sound. And we have our closing theme that you would have heard yesterday, And so I'll mention that at the very closing. We'll talk about that just for a second. But we have in the middle of our show, we have a first time guest theme song. So anytime a first time guest comes onto the show, we're going to play, we're going to announce who they are, give a little bit of a description of them, and then rather than all of us collectively clap our hands, we'll just play this welcoming song into the American Gumption Morning Show. So that's going to be the plan. So stay tuned for that. So, all right. And then what I was hoping to do as time goes on is I'll have little theme transitions as I go into different pieces. But hey, stay tuned. You can't have it all done right at the beginning. So now, what are we going to talk about today? And we talked about it yesterday, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about the feather. Yes, and if you remember, the feather is life lesson number 1 from the movie Forrest Gump. So we said the 3 life lessons. The feather represents the opportunities that come into your life. The chocolate box sitting right behind me over my right shoulder. There it is, the chocolate box. And then the shoe, the Nike shoe, and I'm not sure where that got to. Nope, we don't see it. I don't know where it is. Doesn't matter. The shoe represents the journey of life. So the feather, the opportunities, the chocolate box, the choices we make, and then the Nike shoe, that is the journey of life. And so let's talk about the feather. Yeah, let's talk about the feather. So the feather at the beginning of the movie just floats in and lands at the foot of Forrest Gump. And what does he do? He reaches down and picks it up. And he very carefully takes it and opens his suitcase and places it into the book. And of course, it's the beginning of, there's no dialogue up until that point when we're just watching it. So we're all enamored with a brand new movie and seeing it. And I just came to realize over the years of sitting on the bench as Forrest talking to people that the feather is that opportunity that just floats into our lives, and it's like magic. It's the mystical, it's the spiritual part of life where things just show up when we need them, when we want them. And so it's the opportunities that come into our life. And 4 weeks ago today was my birthday, July 7th, and it was a Tuesday. And I had 2 weeks earlier said, I'm going to launch my American Gumption website that had been in planning and talking about for a full year. And finally, you get to the point where you say, all right, we just got to do this. Any of you ever done that where you plan something, you have a project, and it just kind of goes on, and then all of a sudden you go, okay, I got to just, I got to take it live. It's got to be birthed. It's got to come out into the world. So that's what I did is I set that date, and I just kind of hustled those last 2 weeks and then threw it out there. So AmericanGumption.com. There's a banner for that. I should throw that up on the bottom of the screen. Maybe Radiance can find that for me. And but AmericanGumption.com. So launched 2 weeks ago. And now here's the miracle. There's that banner. There's the miracle of technology. And so the one thing I said, I'm a little sidetracked here, but of course, but the thing I said to Radiance when doing the training, I said, so running StreamYard by yourself is like walking, chewing gum, and skipping at the same time. And I'm pretty good at walking, and I'm okay at talking. Now, if you throw in chewing gum and then you got to skip at the same time, it's a challenge. So now where was I? I lost my train of thought. 2 weeks ago, the birthday, I launched the website and everything goes according to plan. And lo and behold, that same very day, I meet Debbie G. And Debbie G is one of the co-founders of Spirituality Gone Wild. And what's funny about it was that her and I meeting had
That's brilliant. Talk about technical difficulties. Hi, everyone. This is Radiance. I'm helping Steve out on the back end. Evidently not very well, and I can't, there's a big storm coming in. So if you have some really wonderful thoughts and wonderful communication and experiences and stories that you've had with Steve, please go ahead and drop those into the comments. I'm going to go out and I'll be right back. Okay, well, this is funny. Well, hopefully he will be back on soon. So if you have some stories that you'd like to share about Steve, or if you have like, what have been your experiences in perfect alignment and what's coming towards you, what's flowing towards you. I'm still trying to find Steve. Steve, where did you go? We want you back. So maybe he's out running marathons, I would imagine. Okay, this is me just killing time, really. Come on. All right, so my thought is that I'm going to go off into the other portals, go and relocate Mr. Steve. You, the fans, are welcome, and the community that's around him are welcome to drop in. Hey!
Wow. So I got frozen up. I guess it was because of the hurricane, huh? Or the weather.
Well, welcome back, Steve. I'm going to go in the back office. Love you all.
So there we go. Now we're back here live. Sorry about that, folks. Here's what happened. I knew this hurricane thing is coming right through, and all of a sudden my page froze up, and I was not sure what to do. So I kind of froze up, and I kept waiting for it to come back, and then finally my lovely producer sent me a message and said, "Hey, are you going to actually come back on the air?" And here I am. So, all right. So where was I? I was talking about the fact that on my birthday, a feather showed up, and that was meeting Debbie G, and that was the ability to be part of what this is all about. So it's pretty much a miracle, because 4 weeks ago today, I'm in the process of launching my new website, completely unaware, and it was at the end of the day, so not even 4 weeks ago, when Debbie and I meet, and then within about 3 or 4 days, it's like, oh, you got to have a show on there, on spirituality gone wild, and so I said, what kind of show? And she said, just what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do a morning show, and here we are, and I kind of outlined it, and I just made it up. So that's what we do in life. Feathers come into our life, and we decide whether we want to pick them up or not. We decide whether we want to pick them up or not. So I'm gonna share a little bit about Forrest Gump, and let's see if I can do it. There it is. Look at that. Let's go this way. Yeah. So this is the life journey of Forrest Gump, and that feather shows up right smack at the beginning of the movie, which in the timeline of the movie is actually right at the ending of the movie, because he's sitting on the bench up about to go visit Jenny when the feather shows up. But what happens before he actually gets to see Jenny at her apartment is that he reminisces about his entire life, and he just tells the story. And the miracle was that at each juncture where he jumps from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, it's always because of a feather that comes into his life, and then he picks it up. So when he's a boy, what was the feather? Well, he met Jenny. If you remember, he climbs onto the bus his first day of school, and he's walking down the aisle, and the other kids are saying, "You can't sit here. Seats taken." Kids looking at him, telling him no. And so he's like standing there, and there's this sort of sad music playing. He's by himself. And then Jenny says, "You can sit down here if you want." And he says it was the most beautiful voice he ever heard. And so they became friends. And how many of your friends in your life have just shown up kind of out of the blue, and you strike up a conversation, or they are kind to you and you're kind to them, and you become friends. So then he's running for his life in high school, because the boys are still throwing rocks at him, and he turns onto the football field, and he runs down the field to save his life. It's like a terrible situation is happening. He's about ready to get run over or beat up by the other boys. And what happens is Coach Bear Bryant sees him. And so it's another feather, lucky. He was just at the right place at the right time. And that leads him going to college. And so he goes to college and competes and plays football and becomes a star and goes to the White House as an All-American. And when he graduates college, his mother's standing there, and she says, "I'm so proud of you, Forrest." And an Army recruiting soldier walks up to him, and he says, "Have you given any thought to your future?" And that's essentially this man coming and handing Forrest a feather. And what's he do? He grabs it, and then he goes and joins the Army. And of course, he meets Bubba. The same exact circumstances on the bus. And the guy saying, "You can't sit here," and Forrest, Bubba says, "You can sit down if you want." So that's how they became friends, just like he met Jenny. And then after he gets wounded and Bubba gets killed, he ends up getting hit in the head with a ping pong ball. Well, it wasn't a feather that hit him in the head, but it was a feather. It was a ping pong ball, and that was the circumstances. So he just goes through his life. Now, what's funny, the first half of his movie, first half of his life, he ends up just taking advantage of the opportunities that come into it. So there wasn't a lot of thought. There wasn't a lot of planning. It was just a matter of, oh, okay, I'll go do this next. And that's the way our lives work. At the beginning of our lives, we just take advantage of it. Our first jobs, my first job was I was a paper boy, and 11 years old. And some kid said, "Hey, I'm not going to be a paper boy anymore. You want the paper out?" And I went home and asked my parents if I could have it. And sure enough, I had it. So it wasn't like I had planned to become a paper boy. It just happened because circumstances, a feather shows up, opportunity. And then now the second half of Forrest's life is interesting because when he left the Army, he decided to become a shrimp boat captain. So in that case, he went searching for the opportunity. Bubba had planted the seed in his mind that they were going to be, a shrimp boat partners. But because Bubba wasn't around, Forrest decided to live the dream, fulfill that dream. It wasn't really his dream, but he felt like he was going to do it. And then he had made a lot of money. Lieutenant Dan came and joined him, and he decided to retire at some point. That was a choice he made, so he picked up a new feather, but it was one that he decided to. And the Jenny shows back up, and then she leaves unannounced, and he's sitting on the front porch all sad and lonely, and he decided to go for a little run. And he ends up running across the country for 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, 16 hours. And at the end of his run, he said, "Mama always said, you have to put the past behind you before you can move on. I think maybe that's what my running was all about. Mama said you got to put the past behind you before you can move on. I think that's what my running was all about." And boy, how true is that? How often do we hold on to something and we are trying to force something to happen. We're trying to change matter with matter. We're not just letting the universe come in and allow the gifts to come to us, but we're trying to force the gifts to come to us, and they don't come. And so, his past that he had to put behind him was those memories of Jenny and why she wouldn't be part of his life, and so he was lonely, he was sad, and so running was his way of overcoming that. So anyway, he finally decides to go home. He makes peace with it. He says, well, I guess it's just not meant to be, and he goes home. And then shortly thereafter, a letter shows up in the mail. Jenny invites him to come to Savannah, which is where he is on the bench. So then the movie becomes live at this very point right here. And so now he's just a few blocks away. He runs down, he knocks on the door and finds out he's a father. And that the movie ends shortly thereafter. So that's the story of it. But it's just a matter of these opportunities, the feathers that come into his life, and then the choices that one makes. And at the beginning of his career, they weren't a lot of, they were just feathers that there were opportunities that just showed up that he didn't plan on and really want. And then the second half of his life, or of the movie story, he was making those decisions. And our lives, I say that our lives are like that because we are a combination of things that we plan to do and make choices for, and then things that just sort of happen. And so in my own case, it's kind of funny. Here I am planning to go out and interview people and travel across the United States in an RV and create the American Gumption stories about ordinary people living extraordinary lives. And then COVID comes along and you're feeling a little bit grounded and nobody wants to meet necessarily in person, and traveling about the country, seems like getting it a little bit delayed isn't a bad thing right at the moment. And but okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch the website, and I'm going to figure out how to do these interviews virtually. And boom, the exact same day that I finally put my energy out into the world, then I meet Debbie G, and here I am 4 weeks later hosting a morning show. And so it wasn't like I wasn't prepared for this. I've been thinking about this for the last 10 years. I just didn't know how and where it was going to be broadcast. And now we're meeting new people, new hosts. So I'm going to take just a minute, and I'm going to talk about a special event that's happening this coming, let's go back there, this screen here, this coming weekend. Is this coming? Oh, here's another feather. I mean, talk about feathers. Talk about starting your first week at a new organization, Spirituality Gone Wild. This is my week number 1, broadcasting show number 2, and lo and behold, in 5 days from now, there's going to be the 3rd anniversary party of Spirituality Gone Wild. And it's called the Rainbow Connection and Infinite Collaboration. And what it is, it's going to be a 5-hour virtual music, entertainment, networking event, speed network style via Zoom. And so Spirituality's Gone Wild's 3rd anniversary. And so here's what I want to just share with you. Imagine meeting other spiritual entrepreneurs. Imagine meeting other spiritual entrepreneurs just like yourself and discovering you each have something to help one another with. Imagine meeting just the right person to take your business to the next level. Sounds like a feather to me. Sounds like this Saturday is going to be a feather of opportunity for people who are in our spiritual realm. So that's what this is all about. And it's imagine limitless possibilities and joy while you build your empire. It's time to realize your dreams and manifest your manifest you into your fullest potential. You are invited to the largest, coolest virtual speed networking for spiritual entrepreneurs. So anyway, there's a site. We're going to list how you sign up. It's $22 if you're just someone who wants to join off the street. If you are a Sign Network member, it's only $11. And if you just want to show up and witness it and not be able to kind of participate on the inner level, it's for free. You can just come along and we'll be broadcasting. I'll be broadcasting it on or sharing the journey on my channel. So this is going to be a fun party, and you'll meet all the other hosts. There's at least 10 or 11 other hosts of Spirituality Gone Wild. I just happen to be the new guy this week, but there's probably going to be more coming up. We're growing, and it's just going to be a fun event. And I'm going to think that Radiance is going to, and I will talk about that some more. So anyway, yeah, this week is going to be a week where we talk about that coming up. I interview some of the other guests, the other hosts. Radiance is one of those hosts, and yeah, we're just going to have a good time. So I think what I would like to do is get very close and ready to introduce our guest. And I have to just search out in the weird thing that happened. I lost my place on some of these things. So give me just a second here to find what I'm looking for. Let's see here. I think this is it. We are ready to go. All right. So Radiance Tyler, aka the Celtic Rocker, Mimi Burns. The Celtic Rocker, Mimi Burns. I love that. We're going to find out what that's all about. I don't know that story. Has dedicated her life to setting a new standard of emotional health in the entertainment industry. Mimi and her husband Stephen are creating a healing arts center. My eyes don't work as good as they used to be. So Mimi and her husband Stephen have created a healing arts center and recording studio so musicians can have the supportive community to generate a thriving life. Her programs and coaching empower people to transform their lives with the tools of emotional literacy and embodied empathy. So we are going to introduce her, but first, the very first thing we have to do is we have to play the welcoming song. So again, I'm trying to walk and chew gum.
I think we got there.
I don't know how that sounded on your end, but on my end, it was kind of choppy. It wasn't playing through. So did you hear it, Radiance, or was it live? Was it musically gibberish, or was it musically good?
No, it musically went there. We got there, Steve.
Awesome. Wow. Well, good. Well, welcome to the American Gumption morning show.
Sounds like you guys are having quite a storm right now.
Yeah, it's it's like the very worst time. It's it's going to be over by 3:00 here. It's 10:30 right now. So it's like kind of almost right smack on top of us. So hopefully we'll get through this show. But I guess that's part of live morning broadcasting.
That's absolutely the case. I'm grateful to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So tell people who you are. You're a musician. You're an artist. Um, you and your husband have created this special center for for musicians, for people in the performing world. You performed yourself for 20 some years. So tell us about yourself.
Yes, I am a Celtic rocker, more world rock. We're somewhere in that genre, prog rock. In the let me think about this. In the 1990s, I used to tour over in Europe, and we had a pretty good following. It was really fantastic. And then I found out I was pregnant while I was on tour in Italy. And then that kind of started landing us in the home base. We came back to the United States and moved out of California, moved to Indiana about 17 years ago. And I've really had this calling ever since I was about 18 or 19 to start understanding what are the deeper tools that are needed for society in order to help make that shift from into more empathy. And I recognize that musicians themselves didn't necessarily have a lot of resources. A lot of them were really induced into drugs and alcohol, and the way that they were expressing themselves was through music. So I started learning programs and developing programs around bringing nourishment so that musicians can have a thriving life. And then my husband and I sold one of his companies, and he sold his company. And then we took that money and we reinvested in order to help build community for musicians so they can serve their communities on a higher level. Ta-da!
Was your husband part of the band to begin with? Is that how you guys met? Were you touring together?
We were. I wrote out exactly what I wanted. I had been dating a lot, and I decided that I needed to just stay focused in music. So I wrote out a list of 167 questions, and I was no longer going to date. I was just going to get married. And then next, like within a couple of, I wouldn't go on a first date with anybody if they didn't get the questions. So he got through the first 10. And then he's like, well, I have a bunch of questions for you as well. And so we were married 68 days later, and we created our first album together for our honeymoon with the band. And then we went on tour together after that.
Wow. That's a great story. It's really it's the same kind of thing that I was talking about with the feather, where you set an intention to do something, and then the answer comes to you unbeknownst to you. So you set the intention, but then what the answer is, we have to just allow that to come into it. It's the law of attraction. Yes.
And I really appreciate your language around the feather and the idea of how do we carry that through in our lives. How do we really show up? I was hearing about your time in Montana, and then all of a sudden you were like, I'm just going to go for it. That for all of this time you're processing and you're nourishing. And so can you tell me about the days that led up to your leaving from Montana?
Yeah, thank you. I went to Montana, and I'll say that there's a real parallel. You said that you're about 10 years into this journey where you went, maybe a little bit longer, but you became intentional about, okay, the old life is no longer working. I have to start creating. And so for 10 years, you've been out there searching, meeting different leaders, learning, and ultimately Montana became that exact thing for me. I didn't go there thinking that was what was going to happen, but that's exactly what happened. And so I went there with like a dream of building the house that overlooks the mountain, and having a shop with woodworking tools, and having, tractors and equipment and fun boy toys to play with. And I had some of those things, but I never used them, and I lost interest in using them, and they became a burden, thinking I had to do that. So I was holding on to a dream that was 20, 30 years old, trying to fulfill, but without the energy and the tools to actually go ahead and fulfill on that dream. So in my case, I was in Montana with like, what brought me there was one vision and one ideal. And as soon as I got there, I realized that that's really what I didn't want and didn't need in my life. And so I went on this, my own spiritual journey of trying to discover what it was that I needed and practicing and becoming self-aware and consciousness. So I was there for 10 years, and it was actually a year and a half ago. It would have been, it was 2018. So no, it was 2 years ago. 2018, I was involved with a couple of volunteer organizations that I had been with, one professional and one just civic in the area. And I had spent 10 years like serving and working with these people. And I was like, I've got to get rid of these things because they're really just, they're fun to do, but they're just work at this point. They were like, I had created lots of things to help them. And so I said, I need to lighten my load. I need to have more flexibility. And shortly thereafter, I ended up with an opportunity that was going to take me around the country, traveling, meeting people. And I was going to be part of someone else. It really didn't happen. But in preparing for that to happen, I started shedding, getting rid of things because I realized I had too much stuff that was bogging me down. And then the short version is that the last year was just like getting rid of everything. And once I had gotten to a certain point of getting rid of stuff, I went, I might as well just get rid of all of it. So I didn't start out with the intention of getting rid of it, all of it. It just kind of kept snowballing and getting, like lighter and lighter. And then finally it was like, oh my gosh, I got to go. And then at the very, very end, it clicked on me that my work in Montana was finished and it was time to go. And so it was time for me to go back out into the world and share the gift of gumption. Because I knew that the gumption thing was good and needed to be shared, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I knew that staying in Montana was I was just too stuck in my ways. I was too, it was a great place. It was a great place to spiritually renew yourself, but it wasn't necessarily the right place for me to go be sharing it from. And, retrospectively, maybe I could do what I'm doing today from there, but I didn't know how to get there from there. So I had to lighten the load and go. So it's a long answer. I'm supposed to interview you.
I just wanted to just take out a couple of pieces that you had stated and then weave it into my story. So you talked about, how you go through the long journey, the long process, and you're building up and you think that you're becoming this one person. And instead, kind of staying on top, kind of staying the feather and finding out what are the pieces that I can take from here on my journey instead of just staying deeply immersed. What are the pieces that we're pulling out and navigating and creating a new future with? I know that you had wanted to mention about the Rainbow Connection conversation this coming weekend and the networking that's happening inside of there. So I really see, your journey, your wisdom that you were developing, and the moment that you were ready to let go of all of it, all of these other opportunities present themselves. So with that, that's this weekend, I think, with all of the opportunities that are presenting themselves for the people who are in this place of deep nourishment and wanting to connect more with a group of people who are really at ease with that level of connection, of welcoming these conversations and how we bring about the thriving lifestyle that we want so that we can serve at our highest level and be connected to our purpose, to be in service to humanity at our highest level.
The term spiritual entrepreneur has been used. I never heard it before, and I love it. And I think that that's exactly the type of people who this event is going to appeal to.
I would agree with that. Yeah. So I'm feeling really nourished about the conversations that I have watching the different shows that are Spirituality Gone Wild. And I really appreciate that you're taking the time I even tagged a few people that your journey around highlighting the everyday human who are extraordinarily making a difference within their communities. So often the pedestal was like, there were only a few people that were really being seen. And one piece that I really appreciate about these days is that those people are no longer being seen. It's the everyday people who are out feeding and housing the homeless. It's the people who are bringing happiness and joy even during times of turmoil. And that's what I see on your show. So Thank you for taking that time.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fun. And you're right, because there was, the old model had 3 broadcast stations that like sent the news out. And it was a year ago. It was one of those moments. You talked about moments. I never gave one moment that transitioned the whole thing. There was lots of little ones. But one moment was when I realized that listening to what was being spewed at me by our political leaders and our media, it had absolutely nothing to do with my life, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the lives of all the people that I came in contact with day in and day out. Nobody was in touch with anything they were saying, and those people weren't in touch with anything that we were living and experiencing. And then that's how American Gumption was born. It was like, oh my gosh, where's the people that are actually doing something and making a difference, and why aren't those stories being told? So this is what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. Yes. So thank you for having me on today. Your one question. Celtic music. So my ancestry is based out of the Ireland, Scotland regions. And so it's the music that was inspired from those regions. And then most of my band are African American men. And so they bring in some of the soul, like the soul rhythms and the African rhythms. So a lot of that is kind of merged. And that's how we came up with the Celtic fusion, Celtic world. But that was, so we've been doing it for over 20 years. And
tell us about your show on Spirituality Gone Wild. How often do you broadcast? Do you have a regular schedule? And I know it's music based. Tell us about it.
Every Sunday night, or wherever you are in the world, sometimes it's nighttime, I bring in musicians and we talk about what are the key components for emotional health, how is that being presented through their music, and then how are they communicating with their communities so that their communities can start to recognize when they're feeling those deeper emotions and those feelings, and then a way to process that through conversation to be able to change neurochemically what's happening in the brain.
So I assume there's music, they're actually performing some, and then there's conversation.
Yes, and a lot of good laughter. I have a lot of great hosts, or a lot of great people who stop in and just want to say hello to their communities instead of at the stage platform. They're just dropping in and getting to know their communities on a deeper level.
And you have a broadcast studio, a recording studio. Do people come in live, or do you do it virtually?
Well, we're building the recording studio right now. We have another one in the basement, but I'm guessing by the beginning of 2021 that it will be open for service.
Okay, great. So it's being done virtually at the moment. And the interviews are virtual, essentially.
Interviews are virtual, yes.
Do you ever have trouble during a hurricane with broadcast connections?
We are in Indiana, so there is very little hurricane happening up in Indiana. There's very little anything beyond cows and horses happening in Indiana.
Well, very good. Well, maybe on if you know in advance, maybe you can come back to the show on a Friday, and you can just make a quick peep in and pop in and say hello to our morning show audience, and tell us what's coming up on the Sunday night show if you have a plan.
I would love that. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's been wonderful staying with you for these few minutes, and I'm so grateful that you brought this broadcast out, and I'm grateful for the people who are pouring in to help nourish this show. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, and thanks for being a good teacher and being patient to teach people like myself how this technology works. So I have I figured it wasn't going to be impossible to do, but there's just a lot of moving pieces, and so until you get comfortable with it all, I really do appreciate that you helped out this morning and that you joined me, and I'd love to welcome you back again.
Thank you. I'm excited to come back. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
All right. See you again.
Bye.
All right. So that was Radiance, aka Mimi, and she talked about her show, Mimi Burns, our show on and the band on Sunday nights, and we'll see if we can get her to come back on Fridays to talk about her show. Probably not this Friday because we're all planning for the big weekend coming up, and I was glad that she mentioned that it's really for people who want to take their lives to a new place, and so it's a networking event. It's something that this weekend's show, this anniversary celebration, if you are a spiritual entrepreneur, if you're doing work similar to what I'm doing, then you want to definitely get a ticket and you want to participate. It's going to happen Saturday afternoon from I believe noon to 6 Eastern time. So that would be like I think that's right, or maybe it's 1 to 6, something like that. But it's basically on the afternoon and the East Coast time. And there'll be breakout sessions where you can go in and meet different people, and you'll be able to connect with people, and people will want to know your story, and you'll want to know their story, and you'll connect with the right kind of people will come into your life if you participate. And if you're just somebody who isn't sure about this, but maybe want to meet some, or at least be exposed to some other people, why don't you come by and you'll be able to just watch it for free. You won't be able to get into the back end as far as meeting and participating in the conversations if you don't purchase a ticket, but you will be able to just watch what happens and see it going on. And so there's going to be music, and there's going to be all the hosts will have a few minutes to introduce themselves, and there's going to be giveaways. So virtual grab bags from what I hear. So hopefully you can join us. All right, we are rapidly coming to the end of our second show. It's been a great show, other than a few technical hurricane glitches. Let's see here. Tomorrow, you want to come in tomorrow, and the weather's going to be great, so the broadcast will come off. There won't be any delay. Our two founders of Spirituality Gone Wild, Debbie G and Karen Palmer, will both be here together, so it'll be like a three-way conversation for the whole second half of the show, and I'm really excited about that. So I've gotten to know Debbie very well. I've gotten to know Karen a little bit, so I want to learn more about it. Karen is broadcasting all the time. She's got several shows going, and I'm still not even 100% sure when and what times, but mostly in the afternoons, evenings is when they come on live. And there's a couple different venues, and Debbie G, she just shows up anytime she wants to. She's a founder. She can be on in the morning, or she can be on late at night. It's all good. So those will be our guests tomorrow. Remember Saturday, I'll go ahead and put a link in the chat box, or in the certainly on the a place to sign up, and I'll add that after the show, so you can sign up for our third anniversary show this Saturday. And Thursday, we're going to have Josie James from the UK. My lights are flickering, so hopefully I'm still live. And I think I'm going to just go ahead and wrap this up here a few minutes early, because the weather doesn't seem to be getting any better. The hurricane is barreling down. It's not actually a hurricane. It's just a big storm at this point, but it's right on top of us here in the East Coast. So with that, I'll say that's the end of today's show, and we'll do our closing song. Oh, I wanted to tell you about the closing song. Yeah, so America the Beautiful swing version. America the Beautiful swing version. So I wanted something to be cheerful. I wanted something to be Americana. And again, I'm not slighting our global connection. Global Gumption is one of my brands, and we're going to be bringing people from outside of the United States, but because I'm going to be traveling mostly within the United States, I decided to name the show American Gumption. And that's it. So have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Boy, I'm still learning how this works. Let's try it one more time. I don't know if it's going to go and play. I'm clicking on the button, but my internet is just a little slow. Let's give it a good hard push. Let's see here.